Hello, guys. Today, as of recording, is actually Thursday, May 7th. Unfortunately, couldn't record yesterday. Pretty busy yesterday, and life is hard and whatever. So anyway, today I will review the comics that came out yesterday on May 6th, starting, as you can read on the title, wherever it is. Pretty sure it's always down here now. Anyway, um, this video is the DC's Convergence books for this week. If you're interested in the other books that came out this week, that'll come up on the second part to this review. And I also picked up Batman Earth 1 Volume 2, so if you want to hear my review of that, that should also be going up after these videos. Anywho, Convergence number 5, and it's very, very shiny. Can't. There we go. That's a good shot of the cover. Convergence number 5. So, this book represents kind of a turning point in the Convergence story. In the last issue, or at the end of last issue, we find out that Deimos is a bad guy, and that his ultimate plan is to capture Brainiac and kind of exploit. We don't really know, but he captured Brainiac and is kind of overthrowing Telos in this issue. We get a lot more exposition, and a lot of the narration is coming from Dick Grayson as he's kind of slowly joins the rest. No, he's there as he joins the rest of the Earth 2 team in the secret underground Skatar's Deimos' lair thing. So Deimos basically captures Brainiac, as we see, and is holding him hostage. We're not quite sure why, but for some sort of ultimate power. Just ultimate power is his motivation. He wants power. Kind of a one-note, not very interesting villain, to be honest. But he does have this interesting confrontation with Telos, and we learn a bit more of his backstory, and he wasn't always a planet, and it's kind of shaping up to be sort of Telos being Brainiac's herald, Brainiac's version of a Silver Surfer, and that's what Telos is. Also, he's a planet. We're not entirely given what it is. I'm sure in the next few issues will be explained fully what Telos is, and I'm sure he's going to be some sort of Deus Machina, whatever, God of the Machine. He's going to be the magical thing that ends up saving everyone eventually. I'm pretty sure that's how these stories usually go. Or he'll make a grand sacrifice to help Anyway, he's going to be key. Whoever Telos really is, they'll remember, and he's going to be powerful, probably. But yeah, that happens. And then a lot of people die. Deimos showing off his power. But the problem is, we were just introduced to these people. These people don't matter to us. So this woman dies. She's with the warlord. Didn't really have any characterization in this plot at all. I mean, okay, she's dead. I actually don't know her name. Tara. It doesn't matter. She wasn't a part of the story. This guy also dies. He wasn't really a big deal. They just kill off people because, now things are getting violent and scary, but none of these people matter. We also have a fight scene between Deimos and the heroes of Earth 2, namely Superman, Green Lantern, and the Flash. And Deimos is all powerful right now, so he kind of wins. Before we get an awesome entrance by the Warlord. I mean, I still don't care about this character, but this is a really cool entrance, just busting through the wall, big damn heroes moment with fuck. Yeah, that's how excited I am about it. Yeah, just ramming through the wall with a whole bunch of Triceratops, kind of saving the day, or at least distracting Deimos enough for the story to continue without our heroes, well, all of our heroes dying. And then at the very end, Dick Grayson basically decides to become Batman, following in the roots of all the other Dick Graysons. He's joining the Batman cause. And then we get the turning point. We get another planet-wide announcement, this time from Deimos, telling the whole planet that he will spare them if they promise to do something. He says for a price. I guess an allegiance of some sort. Anyway, yeah, not really liking Convergence. It's just, and we're at this turning point. This should be the part where the story, I can't think of a better word, metastasizes. Why can't I do words today? You know, where the story coalesces, where the story becomes, okay, this is what the next 3 issues are going to be, kind of outlines and railroads the whole thing, allowing for, you know, a couple twists. You don't want to know everything that's going on. But it's just not interesting. The turning point came, and the hook is gone. Yes, there's the mystery of who Telos really is, but at this point it doesn't matter. Yes, they're finally killing people off, but those people don't matter. The heroes are all coming together, but they started together. It wasn't like they were a fractured team and now they're assembled or anything. It's just not interesting, not gripping. Nothing's really... I don't care about anyone in the story. I don't care about the plot. I care about the stakes, but the stakes are the things explored in all the other Convergence books and not the main storyline. So, yeah, just not really a big fan, not really doing it for me. Next up is Convergence Speed Force number 2. And we get, this is the final issue. All these Convergence spin-offs are only 2 issues long. So starting off where we left off, we have Flashpoint Wonder Woman versus pre-Flashpoint Flash, Wally West in this case, and Fastback from Furry World or something, Furrywood, Looneywood, I forget, and the Wally West 2 kids. We get a prolonged fight scene between Wonder Woman and the Flash, while Fastback goes back to Wally's Gotham in order to protect the children and protect the city from Wonder Woman's Amazon hordes. And that's the gist of the book. We get the Flash fighting Wonder Woman, and we get the Fastback and the Flash's children fighting back in Gotham and slowly developing their own powers. It's a very tidy ending, kind of happy ending. Not much exposition, not much storytelling, just basically fight scene. And then victory, and it's all very neat, very tidy. The first, obviously, the way they did it was the first issue was building up everything, building all the character, but none of that build-up has a payoff. It's just a fight scene. It's not an extraordinary fight scene because we only had 1 issue to really set up the stakes. It doesn't feel like a huge accomplishment or anything. So kind of disappointing, and I hate to say it, but that kind of sets the tone for a lot. For the rest of these spin-offs too, although this, again, I think like the first issue, this is very benchmark. It's not the worst that came out, it's not the best that came out, but it's a nice standard for going forward or setting up my expectations, which I guess unfortunately are pretty low. Better than that book, however, is Convergence Superman issue number 2. And I think that's because it also had a slightly better first issue, or one that kind of set up greater emotional stakes for the characters. So we start on Thomas Wayne from the Flashpoint universe. He's set up as someone like, I feel like his character probably gets the short end of the stick, because we get this development about how he wants to care for the alternate Bruces out there, for his son that grew up to be that, and in alternate universes that he never got to see, but it never goes anywhere. That's a motivation behind his character, but he doesn't act on that past kind of being nice to everybody, or at least to pre-Flashpoint Superman. Speaking of pre-Flashpoint Superman, he's still fighting the rest of the Flashpoint heroes in the middle of the desert before he hears Lois screaming and goes off to rescue her. It's a pretty good fight scene. We see Superman exchange punches, and but you know, when blows come to blows, he is Superman, and he is going to beat everybody up, especially when it comes to saving Lois. And he just zooms right out of there after after kicking Captain Marvel or Captain Thunder in the face. The reason Lois is screaming is, of course, because she was kidnapped by Flashpoint Superman, who, all Clark Kents love Lois Lanes, except for, I guess, New 52 Clark Kent. But, Clark loves Lois. That's the dynamic, and so even across multiple dimensions, a Clark will love a Lois. Unfortunately, this Lois is already taken by another Superman and is also pregnant and just about to give birth. So a lot of this issue is now Superman trying to find Lois and then basically busting into Thomas's Batcave, and then we get a birth. We get a baby being born, and it's sweet, and we care. The first issue took the time to develop these characters as, not just Superman and Lois, but as a Superman and Lois in a very caring, loving relationship. It kind of paused the book, took it slow, so we really enjoy that these characters care about each other. And so this payoff actually works pretty well. It pays off better than the fight scene. I mean, the fight's, it's a fight, so it's potentially more exciting, but this is, a baby being born. This has a lot more emotional heft, a lot more emotional weight to it. And so that it happens, especially under these circumstances, it's very sweet. So I quite enjoyed it. And yeah, also of note, all of these Convergence books have a preview for one of the comics coming out after Convergence. So on the back of this book, we have a preview of Doomed, which I'm not really interested in, and reading the preview here didn't really increase my interest or lack thereof at all. At the beginning of Speed Force, we get a preview of Green Arrow, which could go either way at this point. So yeah, that's something I'll point out as I go through the rest of these Convergence books. Next up is Convergence The Question, issue number 2. In the last issue, we saw Question team up with Huntress and Batwoman in order to find Two-Face, who is gone, in order to find another Two-Face, so that the other Two-Face can kill this Two-Face because he regrets all his actions and crimes and everything. So we start basically, we actually start with Renee Montoya's father dying in the hospital, and Renee Montoya kind of giving this monologue, why do we bother fighting if eventually we will die? The kind of a nihilism argument, I guess. And then, of course, cutting to her as the Question with Batgirl and the Huntress looking for Two-Face. And we get, this is kind of for a single issue, again, this builds on a lot of what the first issue did, and it makes the issue feel a lot bigger than it actually is. We do get a confusing scene. No, it's not that confusing, actually. Never mind. So they track Harvey Dent to the to a courthouse, because that's where Harvey Dents are. They're in courthouses because they're lawyers. It's like some sort of wild animal. The natural habitat of the Harvey Dent is the courthouse. But we get nice character interactions. We have, then we cut to a good part. We have a bit of Batwoman and the Huntress kind of bickering. They're both lovers of the Question. So Batwoman is, of course, the ex, and Huntress is the current girlfriend. So they bicker about, I guess, who's sleeping with who and why do they care so much about the other one. I don't know. It's not that I don't know. It's bickering. It's, lovers quarrel sort of stuff. Batwoman's jealous but doesn't want to admit it. Huntress is kind of flippant about the whole thing. We also get, I love this bit. I wanted to point out this bit where we have kind of a whole 2-page setup for the Question to do one really cool move. So 2 guards there in the courthouse. Huntress throws her hat, distracts the guards, comes running from behind, grabs them, and then in the next page, flips over, knocks them together, lands on the hat, and just kind of... I like they took 2 whole pages to show this entire motion. And it is really cool. It is like really dynamic, so I'm glad they did it. What else next? We also have, again, great character dynamic where Renee actually finds the two Two-Faces and they're arguing in kind of lawyer speak and kind of legalese about whether or not Harvey Dent should murder Two-Face here. And eventually Two-Face outlawyers Harvey Dent, but Renee Montoya jumps in front of the bullet and saves the Two-Faces. I guess one, Harvey Dent from committing murder and Two-Face from being murdered. And then we kind of get just the conclusion to the story, and that's the climax. So and we get kind of everything wrapping up, kind of epilogue stuff. Renee Montoya lives. She was wearing a bulletproof suit. They kiss under the guise of CPR, and then Renee confronts her dying father, who kind of disowned her after she came out of the closet. But in death makes it easier to forgive people, I guess, on both sides of that. And in this book, we get a preview of Starfire. So, again, I really like this issue too. Again, 2 issues is not really a lot of time to first build up a world that some readers might not be immediately familiar with, introduce all these characters, and then have them actually go through the motions of a plot. But I feel this one does a really good job of doing all of that. Within 2 issues, we get really good character moments of Renee Montoya starting off nihilistic and then realizing why she does what she does and forgives her father. We get Batwoman and the Huntress having this little bicker fight over who loves Renee Montoya more. We have Two-Face kind of going through this redemption arc of I've done terrible things and I should die for it, and maybe I've done terrible things but I don't have to die for it. So lots going on in this book, handled up pretty cleanly, pretty solidly. And I really do wish there were more of this Question going on. I really appreciate these characters in this world. So it's a shame that we're leaving this one behind. Next up, we have Convergence Batgirl, issue number 2, and this is probably the worst of the Convergence issues I've read so far. It's just not well written. It's confusingly put together because they keep on jumping back and forth, but it's not clear how far behind they're jumping back, how far ahead they're jumping ahead, when the present is. The writing's not good. It's not engaging. The characters are flat. The art isn't all that good, to be honest. I don't really like criticizing art but look at this Catman. He just looks like, what sort of body shape is that? I get that he's leaning over, but his legs are too small. He looks like he has a 6-pack and a beer gut at the same time. And then you look at his detail over here versus the lack of detail on the bottom 2/3 of this page. It's just not well drawn. It's not well written. Even if it were well written, the structure is still very confusing. It's not well put together because they jump back and forth almost constantly. So on this page, they mark the present. We jump into a flashback for one page, and then we're back in the present. But we start off in another past, but slightly before this fight, slightly before issue number 1, I guess. It's very confusing to follow. The fight isn't all that well done. The characters are just flat. The conflicts between them seem pretty unsubstantiated. So it's just not. Yeah. So also here we get this moment So they're in the middle of a fight with Grodd over here, and then you flip the page, fight, and so you're in this fight, you flip the page, and then in the middle of this page you go back to yesterday to explain something about why Robin is knocked out, or why Red Robin. It's not a good book. I didn't enjoy reading it. It's just messy, and I guess the ending is kind of novel, the way they actually solve this fight. It's a good idea, and I would have liked it if done in a better book. And then the actual kind of epilogue moments where they're recovering has the potential to be sweet and funny. Like they have good setups, they have good ideas, but it's just not executed well at all. So yeah, it's an unpleasant book to read. And fittingly enough, the preview at the back of this is for another book that seems almost unreadable, about a teenage Twitter president. I would not pick up this book. I would avoid it at all costs. It is not fun. So luckily we get to wash the taste of that one out of our mouths with Convergence Nightwing and Oracle, issue number 2. I really like the cover for this one. I like the whole setup where the dress swirls and has the kind of technological patterns going around. And it's a nice cover. I really like it. So last issue we have Nightwing and Oracle fighting off the Thanagarians from, I think it's Flashpoint again, the Flashpoint Thanagarians. And we get a kind of two-fold fight scene. We have Nightwing fighting the Thanagarians in kind of hand-to-hand, where he puts up his own. Again, he's kind of hopelessly outmatched, but he puts up his own, manages to get a couple good punches in before Oracle comes to the save by recruiting Black Canary to Canary Cry straight into the earpieces of the Thanagarians, giving Hawkeye the advantage he needs to finally get the upper hand combat-wise. And we also have Barbara defending the rest of Gotham from the Thanagarian robots by hacking into by hacking into Brainiac's robots and using them to defend the city. So yeah, it's a fight where we have Barbara basically planning the whole thing out, and she kind of planned it out, or it's hinted that she planned it out last issue, and now we see the whole plan unfold, with her being in control even as everything seems to be falling out around her, including being ambushed by Hawkgirl and having to fight Hawkgirl. So yeah, it's a really good book. I really enjoyed this one, just seeing all of Barbara's plans. I mean, they're not great reveals because we weren't really given a hint. Again, 2 issues, not really enough time to set up a lot of foreshadowing. But knowing Oracle's character, it's believable that she did all this in advance. There's enough hints in this book about how she's working on this as it's going on. So it doesn't feel very... it doesn't feel like it's all coming out of nowhere, which is nice. And then we get a good emotional closure when Nightwing and Barbara Gordon or Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon finally get married, which I think there's after 3 proposals across multiple universes at this point, so that's finally happened, and very good emotional closure, and yeah, fun book. I really enjoyed it. And Black Canary was in it, which is unexpected, and Black Canary is also really cool. Then we get the end of the end of issue preview of Midnighter, and Midnighter actually seems like it's going to be a pretty cool book. I'll probably pick up the first issue. Seems interesting. And the last Convergence book this week is Batman and Robin, and unfortunately this one is also, we're ending on a not so good one. Again, this book is basically one big fight scene between Batman, Robin, and Red Hood against I'm still not sure who these people are, the evil clown posse or something, I don't know. But yeah, like Batgirl, nothing in this book really works. The art is just kind of messy. I get they're going for like a scraggly, scratch-heavy style, but it doesn't have even something like that, it has to be a controlled mess. It has to be a mess where things make sense. In this one, it just feels scribbly. And then the fight again, it makes no sense. You're following too many people, and nobody falls down. Everyone keeps on getting back up and switching kind of fighting partners, and it's a hard fight to follow, especially for how long it is. I have no idea who these two people are or whose side they're on, but they seem to be fighting each other, I guess. Let me find a panel over, where is this panel? But yeah, over here, I guess, same page. Red Hood doesn't even seem to be fighting. He just seems to be standing still and taking a beating. Characters just jump in and fight out of nowhere and hit each other, but they should be in the middle of a different fight. Yeah, it's a really hard fight to follow. The dialogue's nothing great because, it's a fight scene. Only so many characters can pull off really good dialogue in a fight scene anyway. So Batman was fighting this guy, but now this guy's fighting. It's just, yeah, it's a hard book to follow. The fight's not good. The dialogue is, in times, just irrelevant. Characters just, at the very end here, after the fight, we get Batman saying, "I never was a good father, but you two are good brothers." It's I've learned how to be a brother, and I've learned how to forgive you, Jason, and all sorts of other things. Superman is at the end of this book for some reason. I don't know. So yeah, just not a really fun issue, this one. Just not good. Not rewarding. It just totally fell apart. The preview for this book is the Omega Men, which could go either way, could be interesting. The preview kind of... this is probably my favorite standalone preview for this book that I've read, or of the books that I've read. The whole thing, it feels very much like a movie trailer. We're given this kind of hostage situation where all the characters are basically talking to the hostage. This one guy who seems to be the leader waxes philosophical to the hostage before revealing who the hostage is, and then we see what they end up doing and why exactly they're filming this person they captured. The preview was a lot better than the main issue, than the main story of this book, unfortunately. And that is it for the Convergence books this week. If you are interested in the non-Convergence books that I picked up this week, that is going to be in part 2 of this video. I also picked up Batman Earth 1 Volume 2, so if you want to see a review of that, that should be going up shortly after this week's reviews. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Any comments, questions, whatever, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will try to respond to them to the best of my ability. And if you want more of these every week, please subscribe. Thank you once again for watching.